often talk about the inaccuracy of breathalyzers, field sobriety tests, possibly blood and urine tests, and at times corruption of police and destroying evidence or photocopying from one case to another or hiding evidence. Are you saying that the system, the DUI system, is corrupt in any way, or what?
No, I think corrupt is the wrong term. I think inefficient would be a good characterization. I think unfair and unjust commonly, and I think certainly violations of constitutional rights are routinely existing in these kinds of cases. These cases rely heavily on, first of all, breath machines and blood analysis. These are relatively unreliable, particularly the breath analysis, unreliable and inaccurate methods. A lot of the evidence is dependent very heavily upon the credibility and the honesty of the officer. What is under the influence? Well, it's what the officer says. It's the field sobriety test he administers and his decision of whether you pass or not.
Oh, okay.
It's what he says that you told him about how much you've been drinking.
Okay.
It's his assessment of what your driving looked like. In other words, they're his opinions, his observations, and with a lot of police officers, and I'm not certainly saying all, there are good police officers and bad, but among those officers, it's human nature to fudge a little bit here and there to strengthen your case, and it's uniquely easy to do. There are no witnesses, there's no type of evidence you often see in most cases. So it lends itself to inaccuracies in the machines and the blood analysis, and some, let's just say, subjective approaches by the police officer. Bearing in mind that we're talking about a competent police officer, and there are an awful lot of them out there who aren't very competent at doing field sobriety tests and so on.
And so it sounds like what you're saying is a lot of the prosecution's case rests on a human being, this police officer, and they have their faults.
Absolutely. Bearing in mind, again, most officers are honest. Most officers are generally competent, although when we get into things like horizontal gaze nystagmus test, which is one of the 3 standard field sobriety tests, I've never seen a police officer able, and I have cross-examined many of them, hundreds of them, I've never seen who really understood or were able to competently administer the test. Studies have been done at major universities trying to assess the abilities of police officers, taking groups of police officers, comparing them to groups of bartenders, groups of social drinkers, and so on, by such as having videotape shown to the different groups of real suspects in the field, answering questions and doing field sobriety tests, and so on. The conclusions in all 3 of the major studies were the difference between the 3 types of groups were almost non-existent.
Really?
In other words, the trained police officer was no better at recognizing levels of intoxication than you or I, or a bartender who's used to seeing people in a bar.
Very interesting.
It is.